Iron Connection. Restore. Renew. Reconnect. Live. Laugh. And love. Connections. Dream. Getaway Experiences. Brave Heart Workshops. Unique Getaways live with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show, Restore, Renew, and Reconnect in Community, sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds, and with me today is Michael McNulty from the Chicagoland area. Welcome, Michael.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, we're so glad you could join us from Chicago, and for the audience, I'd love for you to know a little bit about who Michael is. He's a psychotherapist, a trainer, a writer, and a teacher with over 30 years of experience. He's traveled to Sri Lanka 22 times since the Boxing Day tsunami of 2004 to train and support paraprofessional counselors in one of the most chronically traumatized areas of the world, and he received 5 Fulbright Specialist grants for his work there. Mike is the longest-standing master trainer, certified Gottman therapist since 2005, and certified Gottman workshop leader since 2007, sponsoring and presenting the Art and Science of Love for the Gottman Institute. He served as an adjunct visiting and professional development instructor in several programs in psychology and social work. He's in private practice in both Evanston and Highland Park, Illinois. So what an amazing bio, Michael. I was wondering if you would share a little bit with the audience what drove you into this field of being a therapist, and then how you ended up with the Gottman Institute. If you could just tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I originally thought that I should become a Catholic priest, and then I decided I didn't have a calling, and so I decided to become a social worker instead. And I found that the people who needed the most assistance were, people who are poor or vulnerable, or folks with mental health issues. And so then I got interested in therapy, and got more and more training in therapy. And after that, I determined I was really, or I was told I was really quite good couples therapist. So I went for some more formal training in couples therapy through the Gottman Institute. And I love that kind of work. I love being able to help partners to understand each other and to work on their relationships. I love John Gottman's research and all that it tells us about how relationships work. It's very real and makes a whole lot of sense. And I love the method of working on relationships that he's developed with his wife and partner, also a psychologist, Dr. Julie Gottman. So I feel very fortunate.
Well, that's an interesting lead-in. And so here you are, a young boy. I'm assuming you grew up in a family with the Catholic faith, and were you the altar boy and everything, and that went to church every Sunday at Catholic church?
Oh, yes.
And then, so you had a passion
Right.
for that in ministry, and then you felt led to go into a different direction. And so when you got
Right.
when you were led into that different direction, what tell the audience a little bit about your training and what modalities of therapy you're trained in, and
Sure.
what types of clientele are you counseling at this time?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I was trained as a clinical social worker. And I love that model. Way back, 30 years ago, when I was in graduate school or finishing up graduate school for the first time, the clinical social work perspective combined both the finest aspects of therapy, but really looked at people as being really real people who face life in a real world. And we have to keep a very holistic perspective on the people we work with and the challenges that they face. And so that's how I was trained first. And then as I moved into psychotherapy, I was predominantly trained in a model called, or a theory called self-psychology. And that's a contemporary sort of follow-up to Freudian theory that holds that throughout life we all need connections with activities and others that affirm who we are, our aspirations and our ideals. And when we have that, it's like psychological oxygen, and helps us to feel stable and whole, and promotes us to grow. And so I've always thought that that's quite a wonderful theory that matches so well with the clinical social work background. And from there, I've always felt like, besides having a psychoanalytic theory, which self-psychology is, that I should also have an evidence-based theory as I work with couples. So I use self-psychology in terms of how I generally think about people in relationships. I use the Gottman method more for the nuts and the bolts and the specifics of how to think about and work on relationships.
Awesome. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Is there anything on your laptop or computer that's still turned on? Because it's giving some feedback back and forth as you're speaking.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Everything's turned off here.
Okay.
Being at home, I think there's a truck outside right now, but that's going to go in just a minute. So maybe
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, there was just some feedback.
I apologize for that.
No problem whatsoever. So, with the different modalities of therapy that you're utilizing today with your clients, are you integrating things like EMDR, internal family systems, DBT, CBT? Are you using those practices, or are you using more of the Freudian, the traditional cognitive therapy approach?
I am, as I said, I use a contemporary psychoanalytic theory, which is called self-psychology, which I just described. And I use that when I work with couples. I use that primarily with the Gottman method of couples therapy, but I also integrate collaborative couples therapy with that too, by Dan Weil, who John Gottman called the greatest living couples therapist. So he just passed away a couple of months ago. And so I blend those two. I draw upon a theory called emotion-focused couples therapy some in my work as well. I am trained in trauma and I am trained in EMDR, so I can utilize that too in my work, in my couples work. I'm familiar with DBT, but probably use that less often in my work. I probably draw upon the general principles and goals to really help people to cope better in a mindful way. But I wouldn't say I haven't really seen a model that successfully integrates DBT and couples therapy. So I think there's still some work to be done in that area.
So your primary client then are couples then? So you're doing mainly couples therapy?
Well, no, it's 50-50 or 60-40. It's usually at least 50% couples, but I still do individual work as well, and draw upon self-psychology in that work. But I also just kind of utilize bits and pieces from other theories that work, other more contemporary theories like and approaches like EMDR and DBT and whatnot. So I might say that I'm kind of I try to make sure everything I do is consistent with self-psychology, but I also am comfortable with drawing from any of the evidence-based approaches that are proven to be so useful.
Well, I've actually done some really good work with a former therapist in Chicago doing the emotion freedom technique of playing the recorder backwards, like the video recorder, stopping, pausing, and letting your spouse speak. And so it was very, very helpful for me, that emotional technique. So talk to us a little bit about, you're an expert here and you've been doing master stuff with the Gottman Institute. So could you just, like, in a shortened, heightened synopsis, let the audience know a little bit about the art and science of love events that the Gottman Institute has created and that you're training for you train or you lead, excuse me?
Sure. Well, I should first start out by saying, for people who don't know, that John Gottman is the leading relationship researcher in the world, that he's studied over 3,000 couples, some for as long as 20 years. And in so doing, was able to figure out how to predict which marriages will succeed and which will fail. So he developed a model and can predict with 90% accuracy, after watching a couple in a conflict discussion on video, whether or not they'll divorce or stay together during the next 2 years, and whether or not they'll be happy with their marriage. So that's pretty, groundbreaking research that's influenced the entire field. He and his partner, Dr. Julie Gottman, then put together this model of making relationships work, making marriage work, the principles that make marriage work. And that's summarized in his best-selling book called The 7 Principles That Make Marriage Work, the New York Times bestseller. And The Art and Science of Love is basically going over most of the material in that book, The 7 Principles That Make Marriage Work, except it's the latest information, and it's an opportunity to watch demonstrations of all the exercises that go with the principles that make marriage work. And it's a chance for couples to practice all of those principles with Gottman therapists available to coach people on them. And the first day has to do with friendship. How do you build up friendship, intimacy, romance in a relationship? And then the second day has to do with how do you manage conflict? How do you manage that ongoing conflict that's inherent in all relationships? So it's a lot of real relevant information. People love it. I've taught it for years, and we always get very positive feedback about the curriculum and about the information and the experience. So it's really, I just recommend it to anyone who's married or anyone who's in a long-term love relationship.
So, as you were saying that, I have a funny part of my personality, so you'll have to know where I'm coming from. So when you were sharing just now, and when Mr. Gottman did the research on the couples, and he found with that 90% accuracy of what marriages will last and which will fail, with his program that he's developed, the 7 Principles, if someone is in that category of assessment that their marriage will fail, and then they sign up for the Art and Science of Love, does that statistic change where that marriage can be saved before it fails?
Yes. I mean, in general, I think what you're asking is the workshop successful for all the different kinds of people who attend. And we have people who come to the workshops who just like to do marriage encounter every few years, and so they're not particularly in crisis, but they like to do a marriage encounter type activity to kind of keep enriching their relationship. We have therapists who've learned about the Gottman method who come with their partners who just want to learn the method for their daily lives and stuff. And then we do have people who come in crisis, where they're not sure if they're going to be moving forward with their relationship or continue their relationship. And what we find with this workshop is, what we can say is that 90, I forget the exact statistic, but 90 some odd participants will say that that they're closer to their partner because of the workshop, and that they were able to make success, have some success working on some problems they've been very stuck on during the course of the workshop. And so the research that's coming out on the workshop says that it's very effective. And then there's more in-depth follow-up to in one of those studies, and again, that people are saying that 6 months, a year later, that the workshop is still proves to be helpful and useful for them.
Well, that's really, really good. And again, like anything in life, depending on how much you put into it, is going to result. I mean, you can come to a workshop, and any workshop, and if you put the energy and the work that goes into it, the results are going to manifest. And you know, people that are real will know that marriage is something you work at. It's not something you just live. You have to put some investment into a relationship to make it work.
That's right. But I think, this particular workshop, it's so well designed and the materials are so interesting. Partner who wanted to come, and then the other partner who was dragged along. So we always say at the beginning, and really within an hour or two of being at the workshop, everyone seems to be pretty positive about it, and everyone seems to be trying and working on stuff. So it's really engaging material that I think everyone's interested in, that no one's ever taught us about, and people generally really like it. It's sort of.
That's great.
I've been teaching it since 2007, and as I always get that feedback. It's very rare that we ever have a couple come in and say something like it wasn't helpful.
That's amazing.
Nothing can be for everyone, but this workshop seems to be for the vast majority.
Yeah. Well, transitioning a bit here, tell me a little bit about, for yourself, Michael, how have you experienced connection during this time of social distancing? Has your life and your business modality changed during this time, or how has it been for you?
It certainly has changed. We can't do our in-person workshops right now in the Chicago area because you can't have more than 10 people at a meeting at this point in time, and it's been that way since March. So we finished a bunch of workshops, and then the virus came along, and all that's been put on hold for the time being. And so basically I'm doing much more work from home, or doing all my work from home, seeing couples and clients over Zoom for the first time, in my career. And so it's changed a lot. It's gone great. I've been shocked at how well people do with therapy, over the internet. And which has been a very positive discovery. I think a lot of people were skeptical about trying this, before the COVID crisis, and they've been really pleasantly surprised, as I have been. So it's that's kind of how I'm working with it.
I've talked to several therapists who have gone into this transition, and many of them have said that they're a lot more exhausted at the end of the day because being in an office, talking face to face to a client, you don't have as much intense eye contact as you do on a Zoom therapy session, and that the therapists are really drained at the end of the day. Have you experienced that yourself?
Yes, I think too, just using Zoom in general, whether it's even so specific to the eye contact, just looking at the screen for, I'll do 35 clinical hours in a week. And so looking at a screen for 35 hours is exhausting. Mm-hmm. I think we're all pleasantly surprised at how the process can occur online. When I say we're all, I mean myself and the colleagues that I've talked to, or the people I've seen, who've read about this and who've written about this, and I've read their writings and stuff, and everyone's kind of saying it's just the screen time is exhausting.
Well, and your body can't move around the way it can in an office when you're sitting in an easy chair or on a couch or whatever. It's not like you can keep moving your body. You've got to stay in one position for the majority of the session. So we are 50% through 2020, which blows my mind away because I think a lot of us felt like we woke up and it was January 1st, and then all of a sudden we blinked our eye and we were in June. It was like, what happened to the year? I think social distancing has, to me, it's made like the year go by like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're in June. So with that in mind, have your goals or your dreams for yourself and your business changed since the beginning of the year till now?
One thing I've been doing, I wrote a blog post called Coping with Uncertainty in COVID-19. And so I've been doing The blog post was, I got a really strong positive response to it. And so I've been working with organizations to bring a workshop based upon that post to help people to cope with COVID-19. It's been a little hard for me because I'm used to so much with my work in Sri Lanka. When there's a crisis, I'm kind of used to going there and working there. And I have a long time family friend who works in mental health there and has been kind of a leader of the counseling movement in Sri Lanka. And I'm used to going and partnering right there on the front line. And COVID-19 kind of keeps us all at home. And so I've been trying to figure out what are ways that I can be involved in terms of helping people to cope and to help professionals help people to cope with all this uncertainty and the stress that it causes for folks, and the difficulty grieving what they've lost, and kind of moving forward with life because they don't even know what to grieve yet, and so they're kind of in this place where they can get real stuck. And I'm hoping to work with people to cope better with that.
So your dreams for the remainder of the year is to be able to get back to that passion you have of helping those that are really traumatized and hurting.
Right, and then also to keep working with online ways to reach people, and then to get the workshops back up and running too. And so I certainly would want to, excited about the idea of going to Branson, to bring the couples workshop there. I'd love to go to Aruba or to other parts of the world where people might want to come and participate. And so I'm excited about that. I collaborate a great deal with Sinead Smith, who you're going to interview, in the next few days. And she's based in Alameda, California, but also does work in Ireland. And I'd like to join her there to kind of bring the Gottman workshop there as well. And we've done that before. And so those are all things that I'm hoping to do. I like to spread this information in any way that I can. I probably prefer the in-person workshops more than anything, because I just enjoy meeting people and connecting with them and facilitating, a great experience for all involved. That's always exciting for me. So I'm hoping we can get back to that place and start doing those again.
So that my last question was going to be, what would your getaway experience look like? But I think you kind of combine the dreams with the getaway experiences with that. Well, since the last time you and I spoke, and I'll just bring it to the audience attention, I have had amazing contacts with some new people, and I just met a lovely man and his wife, his daughter, who just opened up a beautiful 8-bedroom, 5-bath retreat house, adobe home in Lyons, Colorado, which is about 10 minutes outside of Boulder and an hour outside of Denver, on a huge acreage with a river nearby. And so that's like a lovely place in Colorado. And then I have a wonderful girl, Abby Moreland, who her and her husband opened up a ranch with 21 horses. And it's got 3 large arenas in it where they actually do big weddings, huge weddings and family reunions and all kinds of stuff there. So that could be a really good venue too for us to look at for you, because the arena would be perfect. It's a good large center for an event for Gottman, and then it's on this amazing ranch to connect with the horses and stuff. So that's an amazing. And again, my wonderful places in Aruba, and I know Branson is on your radar as well. So I keep meeting some really cool people and finding new locations, and I, for one, love getaway experiences that are different and are unique. I like the unique venues instead of just going to a typical hotel. I like something a little bit more inviting. So, yeah. So if somebody were to tell you today, Michael, you have to get rid of all your apps on your cell phone and you only can keep 2, what's your must-have apps that you use on a regular basis?
Well, let me think about that for a second. I like I have lots of friends all over the world and all over the country. And so I really enjoy Facebook in terms as a way of connecting with people. So I probably would want to keep that one. And I'm trying to think of what else I use that is. Um, and I really find playing words with friends to be quite relaxing. So I'm tempted to use that one. There's also one I kind of go back and forth. The Gottman card decks, that a lot of the card decks that are used in the workshop are available on this app called Gottman Card Decks, and it's for free. And they're different games that people can play to work on, strengthening their relationship and just having fun with their partner. I really like those card decks too. So I think I narrowed it down to 3, which I hope is okay.
Well, I'm glad you shared those, because I too, like at the end of the day, I'm talking like late at night. I know it's crazy, like midnight. Before I go to bed, I have to do my words with friends, and it's like, so I'll have to connect with you on that. And then
Okay.
I like the one where you get the daily puzzle. We can do the puzzle.
Oh,
I can't go to sleep at night before I do my puzzle, and it's like something, it calms me down. And so I love that. And then and I'll share with you at the very end about this connection Zoom that I do on Monday nights, because I have an idea for that, but I'll share that at the very end. Lastly, I'd like to have the audience hear from you. What's one, you already shared one, but I'd like to hear another one about the priesthood. But what's one fun fact about yourself?
I thought the priesthood would qualify.
But
I'm just kidding. So that would cover that base. But let me think if there's another fun fact about me. And let's see, I like to sing. Maybe that's sort of fun.
Yeah,
fun fact.
awesome. What type of music do you love to sing? Do you have any favorites or?
Well, yeah, what I sang for so many years was harmony, and I love like jazz and R&B and that sort of stuff, and also show tunes and classic songs. I don't mean classical music, but classic songs that where there's wonderful harmonies in there and stuff. So that's kind of what I like to sing.
That's awesome. My way of relaxing is music. I'm a music lover. I'm not a real singer, but I just love music. And since you said you like jazz, I'm sure they don't have lyrics to it, but the instrumentals are amazing with Spyro Gyro. Did you like Spyro Gyro?
I do. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of my all-time favorites, and
Yeah.
I loved and went to the concerts for the 2 generations of Dave Brubeck. So loved Dave Brubeck and his music.
Oh, gosh.
So
Wow. That's great.
I'm a girl of the 70s. So
Great.
there used to be a venue in Chicago, and I don't know your age. I'm 66 years old. So back in the 70s, off of Ravenswood, by the Ravenswood Ellen in the city, there used to be a very popular hideaway. You can Google it to see it, called Alice's Revisited, and it was a corner little sandwich club. They didn't serve alcohol. You had to be 18 or over to get in, though, and it just had hardwood floors, and it had one counter to serve sandwiches and beverages, coffee, soft drinks, and then it had a stage. And on any given weekend throughout the Chicagoland area, at the different venues, wherever artists were performing, when they got done with the evening at around 10, 11, 12, midnight, whatever, till 2 in the morning, I think Alice's stayed open till 4 a.m., all of the artists used to show up at Alice's and jam together.
Oh, gosh, that must have been wonderful.
On any given night, and I went there all the time, there were times I'd go there and Harvey Mandel was there, Kenny Rogers, the Allman Brothers, Redbone, just so many artists. So it was so cool. and just amazing jamming that took place there and connection. And they only had room for like 200 people. So you actually got to connect with the artists. It was so cool. It was just an amazing place. But if you get a chance, Google Alice's Revisited in 1972, and you can see some of the posters that used to hang up and see some of the people. It was the best. Those were the best days ever.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. What I'm going to do now for the audience is going to put Michael's bio up on the screen with his website and the way to reach out to him, also on LinkedIn, and just to know how you can reach out to Michael. And please keep the website braveheartworkshops.com available, because as soon as Michael and Sinead, who's going to be on my show next week, can begin bookings again for the retreats, we are planning on doing one here in Branson and hopefully throughout other parts of the world, so that couples can come together, unite, and have healing in their marriage and growth. So I'm just so grateful, Michael, that you came on the show today. And before we end, I just want to let the audience know that the Connection Show started up just a couple of weeks back, and we've interviewed about 15 leaders like Michael now on our show. And we are looking for more leaders that would love to come on and share their story and what they do with the audience, so that we know more about you. So if you're interested in being on the Connection Show, please reach out to me personally at braveheartworkshops with an S on the end.com. Fill out the contact sheet, and then I'll respond and get you a date on the show. But for you in the audience, we value you so much, and we appreciate you coming on and listening to our wonderful leaders. And so, therefore, for you, we'd love to personally invite you to the Connection Show and Gathering Tribe that we started up 3 weeks ago on Monday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, in order to go and be a part of that show, to be able to be a guest invited in, we do ask you to go to the Connection Show and Gathering Tribe private Facebook page and join that group with your email, so that you can be given the Zoom password to have entrance into the show. And it is tonight. And not only do we connect in it, but we really have fun. 2 weeks ago, when we joined together, the group and I did some improv comedy together. I was able to lead them and show them how to do it. And we had an amazing night of belly laughter. Tonight, I think we're going to do some connecting in a game show. So, join in and, let's have fun. Sure, we might at times maybe talk about more personal things, but I'm feeling right now with the social distancing, we need some laughter. So please join us in. And sometimes the leaders who have been on our show, if their schedules warrant, they come on too and join in. So hopefully, Michael, I know you've got a busy practice, but if you're ever free on a Monday night, come in and get to know some of the Connection people, the audience that got to hear your story, and join us. So thank you, Michael, so very, very much.
It's my privilege. Thank you.
Yes. Everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll hopefully see you tonight on the Connection Show Gathering Tribe Zoom. Bye-bye now. Have a wonderful day. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life. Go to braveheartworkshops.com. Join me for weekly Zoom connections on Facebook at facebook.com Braveheart Workshops. Thanks so much for joining the show, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday nights.